Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday and it's May 10th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And I thought I'd start out by showing you the daily chart. You can see we're still trending lower. What looked like early on might be a reversal day. Just kind of petered out at the end and ended really as a kind of a neutral to down day. I would call that really a down day, but it's kind of a neutral type day, and we really opened up here about the same place we opened and closed today. We actually opened and closed pretty much right on the same spot. So, and obviously we traded lower, we traded higher, and we ended up going nowhere. And that's kind of where we're at so far in the overnight session. My guess is our near-term target is still this dashed blue line. And I believe that's 39.13 or something, if I remember correctly. Yeah, you can see right around 39.12.75. So 39.12, 39.13 on the daily chart. You sometimes could push a little lower or close a little higher and have some stem that still meets that target or goes a little further. So, but that's my near-term target. And if we end up making a move equal to this whole piece here, that target is even further down, and that puts us down here around 36.85, 86 area. So maybe we'll bounce here and finally put in a low and go higher. I've been saying we hope that for a long time now. We just keep going lower. So my guess is this down move is not over yet. So I think at the minimum we'll test this 39.13 area, and it's possible we'll go even lower down here closer to 3,700. So anyway, that's the way I see it for now. We're severely oversold. As you can see, we're way outside the brown, and generally you don't stay outside that very long. You'll bounce back. So we'll see where we go from here. But let's flip over to the daily chart and go through the trades, and we'll wrap this day up. Okay, here's a look at 2000 tick intraday chart, and you can see that this is pretty much a range day, and we closed here yesterday, and we pretty much closed almost equally today. And so in the end, we traded up and down. We just traded sideways. You can see the overnight lows. Let me get rid of this crossbar. You can see the overnight lows here, overnight highs here, and this is pretty much your midline. And you can see prices working off that midline there. We got stuck down here in the lows. Couldn't really prices. They struggled to take prices lower, and when they finally did, they rocketed out of there pretty quick. So unfortunately, no follow through on that, and we ended up getting a little two-legged move down. You can see pretty much there the two legs down, and then we just kind of chopped sideways there from that point forward. So anyway, fairly weak day with lots of volatility in here. So lots of big, huge bars. I marked the trades whether the bars were big or not, but some of these trades you'd probably want to think twice about when they're 30 or 40 tick bar, signal bars. So anyway, there's probably some others you could argue to be green in here. You might even, and there's some green that were borderline red or blue. I can't remember which they are when we get to them. If I can remember which ones, as I look at them, I'll remember and I'll discuss it with you. So let's get to the trades and get this day behind us. You had to be patient this morning. 7 o'clock came right in here as we're making this low, and you did get a higher low here on this failed break lower. We pushed it back up into the range, pulled back, tested it, and as long as you had, let me zoom in here, I'm sorry, way out there. As long as you had room to scalp out before that EMA, you may take that trade. It's a little congested looking, but when we broke lower and failed in this thing, it's actually opened up here and traded down and then reversed back up. So even though there's a tiny body there, I think you're probably at least going back to the EMA. You can see the failure here and the little slight trap. I wasn't really expecting it to do this, but sometimes on the failed break lower, you get these kind of moves, and that's why I like to try to sometimes be a little more aggressive with these type trades and try to sneak in. And unfortunately, your signal bar is just too bearish here, and then you get an inside bar, but then you go higher and pull back, and that little tick, couple of ticks lower that turned back up there, that's a pretty good reversal type signal, especially off the lows of the range across there. And as you sometimes get, you end up with an important low for the day, and that was one of them. Let me back out here again for just a minute. We were looking at this blue channel possibility early on, and you can see it fits in there, but it just didn't follow through. So I had it on there, but when we didn't get any bounce there and kept going lower, just remove that. It's just because all it does is clutter your chart. It adds no value really at that point. So there's that trade. Then you come up here and you get a technically this is a double bottom right here, and you're moving up. So that is actually a failed second entry short. It's a breakout pullback long, and we do have that trap, and we were really in an uptrend prior to this little failed break lower and trap here. So there's reasons to like going long there. It's a little aggressive, but there's reasons to like it. And then we're just working sideways here. You do get a triple test, but no signal bar, so you just can't enter that one. And of course, now you get the break, you make a run to a new high, and then you get a first entry, and then you push on down and pull back. That's a nice looking second entry reversal and a nice signal bar. I like that trade. That one takes off, and then you get another quick, easy second entry that confirms the trend line. This one is one of the ones that's real close. You could argue for this to be red. It's got a small signal bar of 8 ticks. We don't get many like that. It's a second entry. It confirms a key entry point. It is a little congested there, but really what happened here is prices are just kind of stuck between the trend line and the EMA. And if they push on through there, we're probably going lower. And you can see that's exactly what happened. And if you took this trade, that's a really good move there. And you probably get a runner off this one. And that's a nice move. And, you know, you're looking for at least a measured leg down like this. And you can see we pretty much get a perfect to the tick measured move there. And that's the beauty of this stuff. It gives you a good target. And of course we bounce there. And notice you got another little double bottom here, and you get a first entry, second entry. So that's another failure right there. And it's a big signal bar. What you might do is let this break higher and drop a limit order a little further back. And you could have gotten filled quite far back into this bar to make it more realistic. But, you know, you can see that's 31 ticks, and that's just a very large signal bar. So there's no reason to... I don't think I would risk going long right into that 2-bar matching high there. I think I let that break higher, drop a limit order back here, maybe a tick above this bar, something more realistic and without being too conservative, and you get in that trade and you get a little bit of a runner, but it comes back pretty quickly. And we bounce right there at the key entry point. No setup there. But notice you got a new low, and then you get another first entry, second entry, and the second entry fails right off the key entry point. I like going long there. Again, I marked this one green, but it's another one you could argue for. If you're a pretty good chart reader and you see that, you could argue, hey, it's a failure. It's off the key entry point. It's also a second entry long because notice your new high, first entry, second entry. So a lot of reasons to like that trade. But anyway, then we make a double top here. You get a first entry. You actually get a second entry here. I didn't mark that one. It's another one you could consider. It didn't quite get back to the EMA. It just didn't set up like a good reversal like you would like. But it is a failed second entry long. It is off the key entry point. So it's one of those you could argue for to be green that I didn't mark. if you're just patient, a few minutes later, you get a really good second entry here. And look at that signal bar. That's the kind of move, that's the kind of setup you want to see. And it makes about the same move, but it's a lot less risky than this other trade over here. Most people, if they just stick to the basics, you would do so well. Day after day, people send me their charts, and they send me these, failures and lower highs, and they're so far off the mark, it's not even worth mentioning. So if you just stick to the second entries at the key entry points, just our basic setups, you would do so much better at this. Yeah, you have to wait a little longer, but you don't have the losers, and you don't have to wonder what happened, and it's just, I say it a lot. Are you here to trade, or are you here to make money? If you're here to make money, just sit tight and wait on the good trades. Don't push trades. Don't force trades. Don't guess at trades. Just wait on the sure things, at least what you perceive to be a sure thing. At some point, you'll get good enough to where you'll pretty much know when it's the sure thing and when you're gambling a little bit. And if you're gambling, you're going to have losers. And you can't blame anybody but yourself if you screw that up. And I have that conversation with a lot of traders pretty often. And always ask yourself, am I here to trade or for the thrill of it because I want to make trades, or am I here to make money? And if you're here to make money, just sit tight and wait on the sure things. Don't press trades, don't gamble, and don't guess, because it's going to end badly for you. I can promise you that. So anyway, now you get that second entry. You don't get much more than a scalp out of that one because it comes back again. It does make a triple test, but the setup's no good. And then we drop on down. And then finally you make another triple test here. You could call that a test really, but you get one here, and then one here. And that's a very nice signal bar. I like going short there. And it's got that failed break higher right at the EMA. That's a nice one. You can see you get a runner here and you catch another nice move. Great setup there. And then a few minutes later, this is a double bottom, so you get a first entry, second entry. And I'll get people that'll go first entry, second entry. And that's just sideways. There's no legs in there. So this was your first leg up, and you get your first entry, and then you try to go higher again. Now you get your second entry, you get a nice signal bar. Just because the counts say second entry doesn't mean you always want to take it. You want to look, and it has to look like a leg. And really, that almost looks like one leg up, and that looks like a first entry. But you could call that a double bottom, and then you get a pretty nice, you get more than just a tick lower there. You get a few ticks lower, and then you try to go higher. So, and you weren't quite to the lows here yet. So honestly, you may not have known where the lows were at that point, but if you just use the high and the low up here, then you got an idea. And it certainly, that's the first, it doesn't match any of this other stuff here. So you either got to overshoot or you haven't got there yet. The fact that we get this set up before you get back over here. Now once you've touched here, you got to be real careful going short there, because you're expecting prices to come back to this side. That's what prices do. They go from support to resistance, support to resistance, support to resistance. And so after we come off support, be real careful taking anything but a perfect entry until you get back to the key entry point. That's the other mistake people tend to make. That and the timing issue. So you have to let these trades play out. But this was a second entry right at the key entry point. You do have a break and a new high, so I felt like that one was worth taking. You get a lower high here, but look how sideways it is. And then it didn't break lower. Don't wait and go short here. There's congestion there by that time, and if you do, you get burned. And I guarantee you, somebody will probably send me an email why this lower high fell. Well, it's not a lower high you want to take. There's reason. There's clues there that says stay out. And you could almost argue that's a triple test, but this is just too sideways. So, and of course now you're going short at the low. So just wait, and you can see it failed pretty quickly before going lower. And you just don't get a setup on this one. It's unfortunate, but you don't. And so now you've got a break and a new low. So any new entry needs to be perfect, because otherwise you'll probably get burned. And that one's tempting. That is a second entry, but look again how it's sideways and the congestion there. And you see how it fails momentarily. It ends up going lower, but a lot of times that'll come back and stop you out and then go lower. And that's why you got to avoid this kind of stuff. Be very careful. All right, then we finally got a new low, and finally we're going higher. There is a reversal here, but again, it's so congested. I don't like it. I'm a little leery of that one. It breaks lower. You got to enter on an engulfing bar. It's just not. It's just not. It's with all the as strong as that downtrend is. Wait, and you can see they wasn't ready to reverse yet. Even though that works, prices aren't ready to reverse, and that's pretty obvious. You do get a close outside this green channel, and then you try to go higher once, twice, it fails. So there's a failure there, but again, it doesn't set up like a reversal, so you can't really take that trade. We drop down, you break out, and we're just going sideways here, but there's no consistent highs, there's no consistent lows. It's really hard to trade, but notice this channel going up here. Color it just so it's easy to see. Get a close outside and two swings up, and that is also a second entry short. Notice the new low, first entry, second entry. Very nice bearish bar, good bit away from the EMA. That's a good setup, and look at it go, boom. So you get all these smart traders that can read the chart, and they're just waiting on something good, and when they get it, boom, you get these big moves like this. Of course, we bounce down here again. You make a higher low. That's too far to be a higher low. You know, when you've moved that far, if you're going to get a higher low, it should go up in here and come back right in this same area, maybe a little higher. But once it's moved through the EMA and come back, that's not a higher low, really. You need a really good setup to consider that. You do get a reversal here, but too far, too close to the highs. Of course, we break out and fail. And you come back. You make a new low and you get a first entry, second entry. And the only reason I made this one green is because it does look a little congested, but it's a second entry short. We had a failed breakout, and now we've tried to go through there a couple times and failed. If it breaks lower, we're probably going lower here. And I still made it green because it is congested, and look at it go. There's actually two legs back here, but that's too much sideways stuff. And if you wait just a minute, then you get a first entry, second entry. And I mean, we got a little bit of a close outside here. That's not real convincing. In fact, this may actually be a little flatter like so, which I think it is. And so I don't really see that as a break. And then this is a clear break in the second entry. And look how bearish. And again, quick, easy move. And then we bounce again. Most days I would say you would attempt to maybe buy these breakouts like this, but this is a strong downtrend. And even though we're going sideways, that still makes this bearish. So you're going to lean towards the shorts versus the longs here. And so I think you got to wait on a higher low or something, and you just don't get anything here. And then suddenly you fail out the upper side again. And you've had a close and a couple legs up. You may risk that one, but wait on the lower high, and you get that right here. I don't know that I would enter that on an engulfing bar. It's just really iffy. And if you wait till this closes, then you really have to enter on this inside bar, and that's not a great idea either. So this trade probably needs to be green. Probably the only way I enter this trade is on the engulfing bar, because this really doesn't qualify over here, and it's a little iffy on the engulfing bar, although it is a lower high and it is off the high of the range. And so the fact that it breaks higher and then turns down, it's probably going to trap some people, so you'll probably get a scalp out of it, and we're probably headed to the other side. So, but I still think that probably deserves to be green. And of course, we bounce down here again, and you get a break and a new high. And this is another one. Look at the size of this bar. 46 ticks in one bar. It broke higher and failed and turned down, and that's a second entry. I marked it, but you know, maybe you let it break lower and drop a limit order in to try to shave off some of that, but I don't think I'm going short way down here, especially when we bounce there. You know, that's really 3 or 4 times we can't go lower there. So it's risky. But man, that's such a bearish bar. It's telling you something's going on there. Um, for whatever reason, a lot of big selling came back in there, and of course you got leg one down, and leg two is probably going to be down to here somewhere. And you can see we even went further than that before it bounced. So something to consider. And then we're just going sideways. You can't enter that. Then we get the failed breakout. And that's the first time we've broken that low today. You can see that we had all that support across there. Most of it was where the pink was. So when we broke out here and tried to go higher, we get a first entry and then a second entry. So if it breaks above that, that's a failure back inside the range. And that's one you might risk because you might catch a high, or I'm sorry, an important low and go higher. And of course that doesn't happen here. You still get an easy scalp and maybe get a couple of points on a runner or something, but nothing's fantastic. And it's a little aggressive, so I did mark it green because this is a strong downtrend like we already talked about. Come back down here, you get a break and you move to a new low. But again, it's a little congested here. Not a perfect signal bar, not much room to the EMA. It works, but you just don't know that up front. And you come back up here and you try to go higher once, twice, three times. So you get a triple test, big bearish bar, enough room back to the EMA. I'm going to take that. And you may take the second entry here. That's a pure second entry. There's a new low, first entry, second entry. It's close to the highs. Actually, the last few times we were turning down right in here. And then you get a lower high here, but by that time you might say, hey, it looks a little congested. But when it tries to go higher a third time, it gives you that bearish bar. Just go short. And of course, it runs back down and bounces off the low of the range again. And you just don't get any setup on that. It's one of those great moves that you just don't get a chance to enter. It's unfortunate, because that's a nice move. That's a strong trend. The buying is coming in here. You can see it. And we start off with a green, which is too steep, and then we just kind of fold over into this cayenne colored. And notice you got a new low there. First entry, second entry fails right at the EMA. You don't really have, you might have this trend line. It probably starts down here, but it fits better starting it from here. So I doubt you probably have that. But it's a failure all the same, right at the EMA. And then you come back here and you get a first entry, second entry, and this actually breaks lower here and turns up. So do you enter on the engulfing bar? I don't know. It still qualifies. It's close to not making the upper 1/3, but I think you could say that closes in the upper 1/3. So you could still go long there as long as you got room to scalp out. But you probably want to take you may take the engulfing bar on that one, because it's really a double bottom across there as well. And that's the first close outside. So you're looking for a new high. And there's something else to watch too. Notice we didn't make the trend channel. Notice how we've been turning down off of it. We didn't make it that time. So that gives you a clue you're probably going to get a break here. You know, a lot of times timing is everything here. So the only reason I like this one is because this was a strong trend. You can clearly see that. That's a strong trend. We run up, make a new high, and then this trend's over. And you're working back down. I don't see any entries here. You might look at, this is a failure, so this is a new high, so first entry, second entry, and you got plenty of room back to the EMA, relatively bearish bar, but it's not perfect. It's not a perfect reversal by any means, or a perfect failure, but guaranteed that if it does turn down, they're going to have some trapped people here. Because look at that buying, and then look what happens. Boom, they all have to exit. And a lot of the people that were getting long over here finally give up too and exit. You get a break of that, you get a triple test basically. Here's what you got. You try to go out once, twice, three times. And even if you consider this congestion in range, if you got room to get out, take the trade. Doesn't matter, this thing just drops. And we're bouncing along. And really you made a low here, you tested again. That's really close together. You could argue that there's a triple test there, but I don't like that setup because of the congestion. But once we push higher and then pull back, now you could easily argue, hey, you got a first test, second test, and a third test. and you got a good signal bar, and you've proven you can go higher here with this little show of strength. And then look, the smart traders see that, and boom, there they go. A lot of them obviously saw this as a triple test and risked it, but the smart, you can tell the smart traders came in here. Boom, and off it goes. And where does it turn down? Right at the last high, comes back, tests it again, and you get another pretty good bounce, but I don't like that signal bar. It's bullish, but I think you're better off to wait, especially since it's just a first entry. So you do get a second entry right here. Notice the new first entry, second entry, but it just doesn't set up properly. And you can see it doesn't go very far before it comes back again. And we're just chopping along here. And so you really want to enter down here or up here, or you want to get some kind of nice setup, and you're not getting much here. This is too bullish, can't use it. Here's your lower high, can't enter with that. Here's your triple test, can't enter with that. And then finally you get a lower high, and I believe this broke higher and then turned down, but I wouldn't swear to that. This was really late in the day. But you could look at that as a lower high. We just came off the highs, and now we're pushing lower. And so there it goes. And we actually came back here, and you got a third touch, but it didn't break higher, and it's a little congested looking. And that takes us into 230. And we just kind of, not much happened after that. That's why we don't trade much after 230. You don't want to get stuck in that and have to take a loser or get kicked out before the trade follows through. So, but there it is again. It's just a range day. It's just a large range day. And have we bottomed out? I don't know. We looked at the daily chart. It's hard to know. My guess is we're still got some room to the downside, and they're probably going to keep probing until they test that at least. And a lot of buying. There is some buying coming in. I wouldn't say a lot of buying, but there's some buying coming in at this price level. Look what happened during the overnight at that price level. Then we came back and went a little bit lower, and look, all the buying came back again. No follow through either time though. So we're definitely getting some buying coming in down here. So there's probably some people bottom fishing down in here, and at some point we may rally out of here. Is tomorrow the day? We'll see. Unless we test that low, I can't see it, but doesn't mean I'm right. So let's flip back over one more time and look at that. Okay, here it is. There's no rejection down here yet. Sure, prices have tried to rally out of there a few times. Could we go higher? Sure, because we're way oversold here. But my guess is we're going to test that 39.13 or whatever right there at a minimum before we go higher. So we'll see what happens. We could even bounce and then come down again. So even if we do bounce here, I'm not convinced that we're done to the downside yet. So anyway, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to wrap this one up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow, though. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.